1. We are live.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Chelsea Prakash, and on behalf of our foundation, I warmly welcome you all to the fourth day of the International Faculty Development Program organized by Kaash Foundation's Center for Academic and Professional Development in collaboration with English Language Teachers Association of India, ELTI. Since its inception, Kaash Foundation has organized 8 international events under the aegis of the Center for Academic and Professional Development, CAPD. In order to enhance and empower the progress of research and pedagogy, Kaash Foundation CAPD has also initiated faculty development programs. A first international faculty development program on research methodology in history was organized from 25th May to 30th May 2020. The international FTP was based on the theme of Historians' Compass and Tools, and it was held in collaboration with the Directorate of Archaeology and Museum, Government of Maharashtra. The second International Faculty Development Program on Pedagogy of Teaching History was held from 3rd August to 9th August 2020 in collaboration with St. Xavier's Institute of Education, Mumbai. And here we are with the third International Faculty Development Program on Emerging Approaches and Trends in English Language and Literature. On 24th August, that is the first day of the third International FTP, we had Sri Anand Harkarji as a guest of honor in conversation with Dr. Kaash Yadav and a keynote speaker, Shobha De, in conversation with Dr. Geeta Ajit and Gayatri Barapulkar. On 25th August, the second day of FTP, we had Patrick Wallace, Dr. Rosie Chamberlain, Claire Braden Siskin as the first, second, and third resource persons, moderated by Dr. Sachin Lapate, Dr. Shivaji Methe, and Dr. Chumti Biswas, respectively. On 26th August, we had Dr. Marie Fernandez talk to us about teaching English through multiple intelligences, with Dr. Sangeeta moderating the session. Dr. Dhiravid speaking as a fifth speaker discussing on globalization of English, ASCAN, with Dr. Geeta Ajit moderating the session, and Dr. Albert P. Ryan as sixth resource person discussing on the topic Teachers as Educators, with Dr. Anusha Ramanathan as the moderator. Today, on the fourth day of the third International FTP, we have Dr. Balaram Gaikwad as the seventh resource person, moderated by Dr. Santosh Rathod, Professor Raima as the eighth resource person, with Dr. Prashant Viji as the moderator, and Dr. Tikaram Podel as the ninth resource person, with Dr. Satyavan as the moderator. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Kaash Yadav, founder trustee of Kaash Foundation, Director of the Center for Academic and Professional Development, Head and Associate Professor, Department of History, St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, to share his introductory remark for the session. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chelsea. A classic is a book that has never finished saying what it has to say, was what was written by Italo Calvino in his book, The Uses of Literature. Kaash Foundation is a Mumbai-based trust, works on 4 verticals: education, environment, health, and heritage. And we've been engaging in this academic endeavor where we feel learning is a process and it should be continuous, it should not stop. The same series, we have started this entire endeavor of Third International Faculty Development Program in collaboration with ELTI. I welcome all the prominent speakers of the day today. We have representation from Mumbai, Dr. Balaram Gaikwad, Vice Principal of Acharya Maratha College. We have live from Saudi Arabia, Dr. Raima, and then we have again live from Nepal, Dr. Tikaram. They will be giving us their, sharing their experiences. They'll be sharing their insights on the topic of the faculty development program. And this entire day's deliberation will be moderated by Dr. Santosh Rathod, Dr. Prashant, and Dr. Satyavan. I would like to end my welcome address with a small quote by Virginia Woolf in the book A Room of One's Own, where she had written wonderfully, literature is strewn with the wreckage of those who have minded beyond reason the opinion of others. Once again, I welcome you all for the 4th day International Faculty Development Program. Thank you very much. Over to you, Chelsea. are you with us? I invite I invite Dr. Geeta to give us some insights on the instructions. These are instructions to participants. Dr. Geeta Ji, the Joint Director of Kaash Foundation Education.
Good afternoon, viewer. Thank you, Kaash. Thank you so much. I'm sorry we seem to be having a little technical snack with Chelsea. I'm sure she'll be back soon. Good afternoon, viewers. Once again, yes, Chelsea. Chelsea, please continue.
Sorry, ma'am.
Please continue.
Thank you. So sorry, everyone. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Geeta Ajit to introduce everyone.
Good afternoon, viewers, and welcome to the fourth day FDP in English on emerging trends and approaches in English language and literature. I'm here just to give a small information. There has been a few queries regarding the feedback form. So just to inform all the viewers, I am sure you will be enjoying. You would have enjoyed the past 3 days of our FTP, where we really had a lot of, apart from a learning process, a lot of knowledge and insight given by many eminent speakers and scholars with us. Okay, this is just regarding the feedback form where we had a few queries. To inform our viewers and our audience, please remember feedback form is only for the registered participants who are here for the certificate. Okay. Now, please understand that the feedback is being compiled in the proceedings along with the details of the participants. Chelsea, can you just mute your mic, please? Thank you so much. Thank you, Chelsea. Okay, and the feedback will be compiled in the proceedings along with your details, and it will be uploaded on the CAPD website. And please, for all the registered participants, please remember the feedback forms are mandatory and it will be closed at 10 p.m. every day. Just a few things. Please understand the feedback on the last column is 1,000 characters, which is around 200 words. And for us, students and teachers of English language and literature, 200 words is definitely very a small amount. And yes, we would like to have details on all the three speakers. So even if you put in around 2 to 3 lines of each speakers, you do touch the word limit and beyond. Okay, so requesting all our feedback participants who are filling the feedback to cooperate, and we would really like to have a clear idea of how you found each speaker each day, and that's the reason why we have 1,000 characters. Please remember, it's 1,000 characters, not words, which will be just around or maybe about 200 words, which is so very little for us. So with that, I give you back to Chelsea, and I hope you enjoyed today's program, which definitely we have a great host scholars and moderators joining us today. Thank you, viewers, and have a great day. I'll be seeing you all in the evening. Over to you, Chelsea.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Santosh Rathod, Associate Professor cum Assistant Director in English, IDOL, University of Mumbai, India, to take over the proceedings ahead and introduce our first esteemed speaker to our audiences. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chelsea. Prakash. Good afternoon, one and all. Welcome back to the third 6-day International Faculty Development Program on Emerging Approaches and Trends in English, Language and Literature, organized jointly by Kaash Foundations, Mumbai, and English Language Teachers Associations, India. Dear participants, this is the fourth day of faculty development program. At the outset, I would like to express my deep sense of gratitude towards Dr. Kaash Yadav, Dr. Ramkishan Bhise, Dr. Sachin Bhumbe, and Dr. Geeta Ajit for giving me this opportunity to moderate and stand as a liaison between today's erudite resource person and researchers, teachers, and participants. The topic of today's session is globalization, global trends in modern English literature. Though the literary history of English writing is long and meandering, the two last centuries witnessed growing English language literature rather than just a literature of England because of Wales, Irish, Scottish, colonial, post colonial writing and literature in English translation. The 19th and 20th centuries, which formed the foundation for the literary trends today, have lent us several towering personalities in the field of literature. They have given us various literary trends and movements, myriads of styles and creative use of language, and of course, method of reading literary and non-literary texts. The landmarks in the 20th century that deeply impacted life and literature include the World War I and World War II, globalization, information and communication technologies, and of course, or rather current pandemic, move, uh, COVID-19. At the backdrop of these events, the contours and trends of literature appear to be changing. So, as to shed light on this, we have with us an eminent speaker. I would like to briefly introduce the resource person, Dr. Baliram Gaikwad. Dr. Gaikwad is a Fulbright scholar, vice principal and head department of English, Acharya Marathe College, Chembur, Mumbai, India. As a Fulbright postdoctoral fellow in University of Florida, he has accomplished postdoctorate in 2013 and achieved PhD in English from Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, Aurangabad, India. Along with his 21 years of teaching experience in English literature at graduate and undergraduate and postgraduate levels, or 15 years for postgraduate levels, he also guides PhD scholars at University of Mumbai. Three researchers have acquired PhD under his guidance, whereas five students are pursuing research work with him. He has also been involved in college administration responsibilities as vice principal since and has shouldered responsibilities as district coordinator at the 58th Youth Festival of University of Mumbai. Dr. Gaikwad authored two scholarly volumes independently and co-authored three academic books. Two of them are Representation of Femininity, Society, Identity and Literature, and Social, Political and Cultural Discourse, Women, Literature and Struggle. He has contributed 22 scholarly research articles in various reputed international level books and journals. He has also served as the editor in chief of Research Chroniclers and served as editorial board member of International Journal of Humanities and Cultural Studies. Tunisia, North Africa, and the Criterion, an international journal, along with an extensive research experience in Dalit literature. He has delivered many guest lectures in United States of America, has been active both on social and academic fronts. He has recently finished the translation of seminal Marathi novel of Annabhau Sathe, Fakira, into English, and he is board of studies member of University of Mumbai. And above all, Dr. Gaikwad is a milk of human kindness, a friend to many, including myself. Before I request Dr. Gaikwad to take charge of the floor, I briefly read out the important instructions regarding this session. This is only 1 hour session, 40 minutes for Dr. Gaikwad's talk and 10 minutes for question and answer. The participants are requested to raise your queries and questions and post to us so that our resource person would take them. And we all have to strictly keep and follow our own times and leave the moderator free from intrusion and intervention. Dr. Gaikwad, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Santosh, sir. It was a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much. It was really not needed. Uh, Good afternoon to all of you. My dear friend, the Dr. Avakash Jadhav, Kaash Foundation, Dr. Geeta Madam, Dr. Geeta Ajit, Dr. Ram Bhise sir, uh, then Dr. Sachin Bombe sir, all the organizers and dear participants at this afternoon. It's my great pleasure to be here on this platform, which has been really catering to the kind of various interdisciplinary issues in education and different kind of thematic concerns that Kaash Foundation has taken up, be it social kind of social issues, social platform, or educational related programs. Kaash Foundation has always been ahead to handle these issues, and particularly in such difficult times. So I wholeheartedly thank Kaash Foundation for inviting me to be here on this very prestigious platform today to share my views on global trends in modern English literature. Dear friends, before I proceed with my talk today, I feel extremely happy to announce what has happened. Uh, Last night, while watching television, I uh, I come across a news which is really wonderful news that one institute in Pune and Oxford University, in collaboration, they have come out with a kind of one medicine called as Covishield. And this Covishield is supposed to be the first kind of such kind of remedy for COVID, which will be shielding to all Indians. This is really a very welcome news. Extremely desirable news that yesterday I heard it. Hope that becomes kind of a successful very soon. And in the backdrop of that, friends, presently what is happening is the crore, 700 crore plus population of this entire world today is suffering because of different reasons. And we know exactly last 6 months that India has been suffering. I mean, I'm referring particularly to India, but the whole world, 700 crore population of this entire world is suffering of COVID 2019. COVID 2019 is an unwelcome, cruel guest at everybody's house, at everybody's places. And in the light of that, I make wishes, I make prayer that all people in this world will have very soon, they'll be free from this unwelcome guest, trauma, the danger that entire this world is suffering for last 6 months. First of all, I wish for their good health. I wish for all of us a very good, healthy, and happy life. Once again, reinstating in our life, we all are really looking forward for this. With these prayers, friends, I would like to start with my topic: global trends in modern English literature. In fact, friends, watching approaches and trends in English language and literature, this effort which has been made at international level, faculty at international level, Dr. Avakash Jadhav and his team, all of us, even I am directly, indirectly part of this. So the whole endeavor is teachers, the faculties from English language and literature, more acquainted with the kind of different paradigm shifts which have happened, which have been happening in particularly with English language literature, English language teaching and literature. So, friends, with these words, I would like to go ahead. Well, friends, change is the only constant thing in this world, and truest reflections of the change is found in the simple words with a very profound meaning in it. The simplicity of these lines is very casually we say change is the only constant thing in this world. But it is significant that all those minutest changes which are occurring in this world, minutest subtle kind of changes, these all changes are so positively, so minutely being captured with their essence in literature. And that's why to understand the kind of social political changes, literary changes in society, we should study the literature of that time, that period, and that country. And it is in this sense, it's most important. Just now, Dr. Jadhav mentioned about Virginia Woolf. My friends, I would like to remind you here that Virginia Woolf, she had mentioned that this world has undergone change since 1910. And when she says that since 1900 change, the world has changed completely, what she exactly intended to say that? She means to say that the entire world which has culturally, politically, socially, which is changing, those changes have been engendered, have been imposed upon this world by some kind of movements which have happened in 20th century. When we say modern, this modernity, which is in terms of change of the situation, it's change of the situation. So those changes we need to understand. So those changes have basically made the kind of impact on this world. So what are those changes, and how has literature changed? These are the things that something we are trying to understand. Well, friends, you see, one of the most outstanding concerns of literature is to be true to life. This is the serious concern that literature has towards life, towards literature. So literature's outstanding concern is to be true to life, and in that entire attempt of being true to life, what literature does is to encapsulate all the social changes into literature. Friends, local and global canon of literature, in an attempt of putting all those minutest changes in literature, the canon of literature, both at national level, international level, even at local level, undergo constant change. So, what are those changes exactly? We are trying to understand by certain kind of literary changes. So, which are those literary changes? I would like to discuss with you through this. These literary changes we see with the human thinking, and this human thinking basically we see, particularly when I say when the title of my presentation is Global Trends in Modern English Literature. Here, modern is extremely important word. Literature is not all alone. Literature is not being created for the first time in this world. In fact, literary history, if we see that literature has been created since long, for many centuries, but in spite of that, in fact, this is also true that every century, every generation has an added advantage over the previous generations. This generation, 20th century and 21st century, also is having this kind of additional advantage over all the rest of the previous generations, which they did not have. But what is it so? Why so this kind of special advantage that we have existing generation, existing situation? I think it is because of this particular slide that you see. Influential thinkers. Who are the influential thinkers basically? It is these people who have shaped the entire 20th century and 21st century. What we loosely say, what we largely say, modernity or modern times, it is this list which tells us that this modern, all the great thinkers like this physicist Einstein, he wrote on relativity in 1905. And who doesn't know about Albert Einstein's relativity? This has been extremely significant kind of a work that Einstein wrote, and which has changed the dimensions, whole thinking of the world. Look at different kind of perspective to human life as well as the galaxy. So relativity, that was a work published in 1905. Another significant book which changed the whole world scenario, that is by physicist Planck, wrote Quantum Theory in 1900. This has also changed the outlook of this world. Philosopher Nietzsche on the will of power. This also shaped the mentality, shaped the minds, young minds of the century. Philosopher works on the concept of time. This work influencing the period, the generation in 1900 onwards, and even till today, we see the similar kind of impact of those books. Psychologist William James on emotions and inner time. That has also been considered one of the influential books written in modern times. Freud on the book The Unconscious, that is the integration of dreams, which also has shaped the entire, not just thinking, but he has also changed complete outlook of psychoanalysis. And that's how the psychologist Sigmund Freud's work is another significant work. We also have psychologist Carl Jung on collective unconscious, as well as Ferdinand de Saussure. In fact, Ferdinand de Saussure is a linguist. He wrote on language, and anthropologist Fraser on primitive cultures. My friends, it is not my claim that only these people have significantly changed the scenario, but basically these are the books which have shaped the psychology, mentality, thinking, literary, critical, all kinds of perspective completely is been changed after. And what is that change because of these books? In fact, even Darwin's theory, when Darwin published 1959, when he published his theory, these whole things have completely, 1859, I'm sorry, these all the changes have shaped the further mentalities and literature of this world. And that's why when we talk about the modern literature and different kind of trends in literature, globally in English language, literature, everything putting together, my friends, whether it is only particular field, science, geography, psychology, whether we are saying even astrophysics, these are all the things being completely shaped by these books. And that's how modernity is being shaped. So it is significant that we know who are the most influential thinkers of modern times. Why modernism as a movement? Why do we think that modernism is a movement? Basically, modernism is a movement for very reason that it is not only restricted to one particular field of life. It has been touching upon different fields of life like the sciences, all kinds of sciences, music, architecture, anthropology, painting, sculpture, psychology, philosophy. All aspects of life have been extremely deeply, been profoundly been influenced by modernism, and that is why modernism is considered as a kind of a movement which has the spread all over the life and all kinds of aspects of life. So there is that way a significant movement here. How do we define modern age? What makes it really a modernity? Basically, it started in the 20th century. It has a very strong political history. It has the modernity. The modern age changed because of the political history. And when we talk of political history, we are talking about the world forum, world political changes, scenarios which have happened. And very next point which I'm going to discuss is World War First. In fact, what is the difference between modernity, modern times, and postmodern times? The only difference is World War First and World War Second. So how have they been influenced with each other? So that also is interesting point of discussion and point of understanding here. So emergence of new nations, which happened because of World War First, and even prior to that, the kind of entire background which was created for World War. So that talks about socio-political literary changes, and naturally, those are all the changes has been reflected in the contemporary, third and contemporary literature, which we call as modern literature. Friends, women's rights issues, though were discussed from 1700th century too, but women's movements, the progressive women's movement, as well as over the world, the spread, the awareness, the amount of literature, the amount of theoretical concepts which came during the modern time. I think that was extremely the surge of literature, and it is that surge of literature which has shaped the modernity. Uh, when we talk of modernity, why modernism basically? What is mean by modernism, and who basically talks about modernism? Friends, this idea, the need of modernity was basically from in the words of T.S. Eliot or Virginia Woolf said, 1910 was a radical point to change the entire world. And that's what is actually the beginning of modernity. Same way, T.S. Eliot, W.P. Yeats, these were the authors also who have commented significantly about modernity. So basically, these writers felt that there was a dire need of coming out with different kind of forms than simply the traditional ways of writing literature. So the writers felt somewhere there was a need of coming out with some kind of new techniques, new writing techniques, new forms of expression, and that was completely kind of a rejection of the past rules regulations of literary production. Uh, Modernism was also kind of a disillusionment of Victorian ideas. The Victorian orthodoxy is completely rejected by the modern times writers. So modern writer or the modern times was nothing but kind of a rejection, a rejection of the Victorian ideas, beliefs, and their way of writing. That's how modernism came into existence. We we can also see that basically with aesthetics of experimentation, which uh, in present scenario, if you read on aesthetics, we understand the aesthetics of literature also have so radically changed in 1600 century, and we read somewhere later on by Dr. Samuel Johnson, when we read the aesthetics of literature, shifts even in aesthetics of literature. And so from that, we consciousness of the people which shapes the aesthetics of literature. I also read one of the significant books written in this time. There are aesthetics of Dalit literature, aesthetics of tribal literature. So, as I mentioned, the aesthetics are also being experimented, and this is not simply happening in any one part of the world, but it's happening all across the world. And that's why we find that there's no one literature, there's no one particular way or approach to look at literature, but there are multiple approaches. And we see that this aesthetics of experimentation also is being practiced all over the world. So this fragmentation is also dislocation. So 20th century is been actually cursed with this kind of rules, whether this is good or bad. The fragmentation that the world was divided, this divided world for various reasons. Fragmentation also refers to World War First, World War Second. So the amount of fragmentation happened and which has fragmented societies, individual personalities, in very well minutely captured in the in English literature. When we talk about ambiguity, that how in 20th century literature or modern literature does talk about even the ambiguity. So, what exactly do we talk about ambiguity and why? In fact, while studying about Samuel Beckett, we understand the ideas like absurd plays and ambiguity. So, the modern times has been described by the authors that it is full of ambiguity. It is full of nihilism. This nihilism we see in the form of the literature of World War First and World War Second. So these the theories that we have seen that the kind of significant text of practices, they have given the freedom to uh, those also became the part of literature, and such kind of ideas also have come up in times, and that is how modern literature was shaped. And these are the ideas completely influence the future course of action. The literature of modern times was created, was based completely on the will be an interesting observation to see here. Well, these are basically the features of modern literature. Intent. Well, I just mentioned that World War First, World War Second, those were the only those were the global incidents which actually resulted, or those were the only two such kind of signposts we can consider, which has engendered different ideological thinkings. One, World War First, uh, modernity, it gave a rise to the modernity, and World War Two gave rise to postmodernity. But this modernity, when we say, we can define this, we can quantify this with the different kind of examples from literature and from thematic features that we see in modern literature. First one is distortion of shapes. Now, this intentional distortion of shapes is basically talking about the themes. It is also related to the themes. It is related to traditional rules, regulations of writing, producing literature. So, rejection of the traditional norms basically decides distortion. Distortion of human life, human minds, psychoanalytic approaches, those are also the parts of distortion when I use this word. Focus on form rather than meaning. Now, there's again the shift in aesthetics. Originally the literary aesthetics looks at, uh, as we know about even William Shakespeare, that only tragedy or only comedy. These kind of a strict Greek rules regulations of literary productions were rejected, and something truer to life, something which is very closer to life. That kind of practical approach was utilized or has been practiced while producing the literature. And here something is of that kind, focus on form rather than meaning. That means while writing poetry, you have to have rhyme scheme into it, and that was a rule rejected in modern times, and we see rise of free verbs in modern times. So focus on form rather than the meaning. It's not. So that also talks about the language. So we are talking here of language. We are talking here of rejecting the earlier ideas, rejecting the ancient space and time. Even these ideas of the limitation of space and time was literary productions were made, which was again the beginning of modern thematic concerns in literature. Break cultural values. That too, in fact, literature uh, centered around these basic ideas that what were the social norms, how they were broken, and what new social norms evolved in the whole process of the way world changed. The cultural values which have been probably very fixed for longer period of time, like up to 17th century. But how the world has continuously progressed and reshuffled its own norms, those things also have found greatest significance when it came to producing literature in modern times. So those were some of the fundamental themes of
Hello.
modern literature. The rejection of history and the substitution of a mythical past need to reflect the complexity of modern urban life. In fact, when we are talking about these things, all of these things we find in T.S. Eliot's writing, where we have the mythical past also, as well as the complexity of modern urban life, which has been reflected very well in like the Westland. So, just to mention one, but then here overall crux of the literary production has been something like this, talking about the complex situation of human life in modern times. Importance of the unconscious mind, about the critiques. These critiques have psychoanalytical criticism, Sigmund Freud and Carl.
Dr. Gaikwad.
Human life.
Dr. Gaikwad,
Yes,
sorry to interrupt you, but this is just a kind
yes, sir.
reminder of our time. We are
Yeah.
inching towards our time. Yeah, please. We have 10 more minutes to go. Then we are going to take the questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yes, sir. You have 10 more minutes to go.
Right. Then there are other important slides ahead. Then I'll go there directly. So, friends, modernism is also been influenced by the ideas like the age of it. Also is called as age of disillusionment, age of machine. Dr. Rathod already mentioned in his introductory remarks that it was age of machine innovations and innovations. The age of war, the age of disintegration and disintegration of society, ethics. Everything has been disintegrated. Modernism also is known for its kind of irony and satire as a tool of point. After Jonathan Swift, we see later on widely were used in modern times. So modern literature is the space for irony and satire too. We also see that another important characteristics for modern literature is opposition to the Victorian types, a direct rejection of Victorian standards of literature. We see at the end of the Victorian era, there was need of a change in the sphere of literature, and that was actually addressed in the form of modern times writing. The modern writers could no longer write in the old manner because they found the futility of it, uselessness, and as a result, the new ways, new techniques of writing, new techniques of literature were created. Writers of the 20th century also visualized kind of the coming of age, coming future of the golden age, and that was seen in the form of modern times. That is how various kinds of artistic experiments were made by the authors. Uh, I gave you the purview literature. It's because when we try to understand what are the global current trends in English literature, then this background is important here. So, friends, we see that because of all kinds of socio-geographical, cultural, political changes, which has revamped the entire world, what came up in 20th century in modern time is this, what we see on the slide. It is basically a rise of modernism. Then we see there is further gradual change from modernism to postmodernism. And as I mentioned, World War First gave rise to modernism, World War Second gave rise to postmodernism, but fundamentally different. What kind of a changes between them? There are extreme kind of a changes between them. What are those? For example, we say in terms of modernity, for example, those who are modern writers, what do these modern writers talk about? These modern writers, for example, Thomas Hardy, T.S. Eliot, Robert Frost, D.H. Lawrence, Virginia Woolf, then Henry James, Joseph Conrad, G.M. Hopkins, Rudyard Kipling. All these writers, most of them are from both America and England. But experimentation with writing is one to put it in a very short and brief. That experimentation with writing is one common thing which connects, which is a connection between all of them, and they all turn out to be modern writers with their experimentation. Even the stream of consciousness technique of writing novel, using this in for a literary production, that is also kind of a modern technique of or modern experimentation with literary production. In fact, postmodernism also provides us different kind of postmodernism is a kind of a all kind of a cultural literary thought. Here to focus a little more on modernism. Basically, modernism is Eurocentric. It is only based on thought. That is the limitation of modernism, and that was found immediately after World War First. But as I mentioned, limitation of modernism is that it is only focused and influenced by the European thought as well as the Western thought. But that is not so with postmodernism. Postmodernism is such a kind of a wide concept that we see. It is one of the extremely active socio-political literary kind of a phenomenon wherein it is postmodernism is also kind of a conglomeration of the all world cultures. It is not only by European or it is not only by American, but postmodernism is nothing but conglomeration of all cultures, conglomeration of ideas, and which has a scope, which has a place for everyone. It is even the multiculturalism is nothing but part of postmodernism. So postmodernism also is kind of idea. This is a thought flow which is at a time based on irrationality. Modernism completely goes through rationality. Those are also basic differences between them. Uh, that such kind of a upheaval in society also gave rise to kind of a Commonwealth literature all over the world. How has this Commonwealth literature changed? Who are those Commonwealth literature, Commonwealth writers? That also I'll be discussing. World War literature, that kind of a concept also came probably for the first time in modern times. Then uh, this is also the time, the modern time has also been the time which witnessed World War literature, dystopic novels, the stream of conscious novels, and all these fundamental changes which has occurred. Those changes have shaped the further course of writing, the further course of literature. We see about postmodernism, friends. These are the famous authors. For example, Beckett, who is known for his absurd plays, Dylan Thomas, W.H. Auden, Vladimir Nabokov, Henry Miller, Joseph Hiller, Hunter Thompson, George Orwell, William Goulding, and Muriel Spark. Muriel Spark is the one who wrote about the Scottish writer who actually gave extreme rise to realism, and her contribution to realistic writing or realism uh, has been also very, very special one, very fundamental. George Orwell, we know for his writing, that's 1984 novel, also has been significant one. And that's a postmodernism we see is a kind of conglomeration or mix of all cultures, giving freedom to irrationality, also writing about both America, Europe, and even all world literatures also find place. And to this world literature, which finds place in literature, which we call as Commonwealth literature. In fact, Commonwealth literature
Can't hear anything.
Hello.
Viewers, it seemed to be a little problem. Please kindly have patience. Dr. Gaikwad is will be back with us very soon.
हा तुमचा नेटवर्क गेलाय का?
Dr. Rathod, we can take your remarks on the presentation till the time Dr. Gaikwad joins in. If we can at least continue with your remarks on his presentation.
Yes, he is joining. Just I would like to summarize.
Please switch on your video. Please switch on your video, Dr. Rathod.
Hello. Dr. Chadha.
Yes, please continue, sir. Please continue.
Yeah, Dr. Gaikwad is going to join us. I have just spoken to him. He is coming back to us. And before he joins, just I would like to present a summary of what he said or what he presented under his title Global Trends in English Language and Literature. Actually, his focus was more on the circumstances which gave rise to different, literary movements in the 20th century or global trends today. So we have Dr. Gaikwad here. Dr. Gaikwad, kindly continue your...
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, am I visible?
Yes.
Sorry, there's some internet connectivity issue here. So, friends, Commonwealth literature, I see one of the greatest benefits of Commonwealth literature or this entire modernity we see that people from different countries, people where there were no voices, so voices were heard here. And the Commonwealth literature, when we talk about Catherine Mansfield, who wrote short stories from New Zealand. We also have R.K. Narayan from our own independent, pre-independence writer, and which gave rise to literature, basically gave the foundation to Indian writing in English. That way we have R.K. Narayan. And then we also have Jean Reyes from Caribbean writer. We have Alan Porton from South Africa as a Commonwealth writer.
Dr. Gaikwad.
Yes, sir.
Sir, there are some questions, very good questions, asked from the panels. One of the questions that Dr. Prasant VZ, our another, moderator of today's session, he has posed very good question that this is an era which sees the trauma theory, ecofeminism, post-truth, post-colonial, feminist studies. But unfortunately, since we are, because of lack of time, we can't, touch upon them. Could you please, speak on these, answer or shed your light on these theories in short?
Right. I was. I'll just connect to what I was saying earlier. I was just mentioning that the writers like Salmanders, the V.S. Naipaul, Chinua Achebe, Patrick White, Margaret Atwood from Canada, from Chinua Achebe from Nigeria, things fall apart. In fact, Commonwealth literature gave rise to all such kind of voices. In fact, all unheard voices were heard with the wake of advent of the modern and postmodern literature, and that's how we see this era is not just era of specialization. This era is of super specialization. All the theories that we talk about, these theories have found rise in 20th century. And so various thought flows, modern ideas, when we see global modern trends in English literature, the ideological construct which we see in the form of women's feminist theories, we see ecofeminism. These are all the theories have been part of the kind of a cultural discourse which went through the entire the globally, and that's how that gave rise to this. So what we say is it has completely revamped the complete test of the world readers. I would also like to say here that even American literature, which I could not cover during my presentation, in fact, American literature completely changed the taste of all the readers internationally, because we see one after another, the kind of literary trends came in American literature, like crime novels came, spy novels came, historical romance became another popular genre to read, fantasy novels came, graphic novels, science fiction. These are the areas we see along with the theory. These are also the areas which came up and became extremely popular. And that's how theory, as well as this kind of innovations and various kinds of techniques in writing, has been the basic contribution of the modern literature, modern global literature in English. Sir, you are not audible.
German writer Goethe put forth the idea of world literature. And Indian Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore coined the notion of Vishwa Sahitya. Do you think, Dr. Gaikwad, what these writers envisaged then has realized now in this era?
Sir, it's a very important observation that you mentioned. In fact, sir, because of the kind of literary productions which happened in 20th century, I must say that, in fact, just to give to answer to this question very precisely, all kinds of translations which are happening across the world, I think this translation world has proved that it is the term like world literature has really proven one. The literature from one small section of Brazil has become very popular in India, and so is that kind of any Indian text translated in any of other languages all around the world has become very, very acceptable. And I think the geographical boundaries and cultural linguistic boundaries that literature could see that the great expansion from all that angle, and that's why I think the translation has really played an important role to bring out something the term called as global literature or world literature. And I think these days almost all the universities in the world, they have this paper called as world literature, which gives extremely perfect panoramic view of the contemporary world literature happening all around. So yes, definitely, sir, what you say makes a great sense.
Couldn't go ahead. You had so many slides present, points to be discussed, but because of time we couldn't do that. I would like to conclude this session uh, that you have very precisely took a kind of trace a kind of overview of how the circumstances leading to various trends and movements, literary trends and movements, and the key personalities that change and shape the literary scenes today. You have, brought your discussion from modernism to postmodernism and colonial and post-colonial studies, in terms of creative writing, in the domain of creative writing, and in the domain of creative reading, critical reading as well. Sir, it was a wonderful session for us, but we couldn't, come to some of the areas like literature. As you said, you have rightly mentioned the graphic novels and cyber literature, punk literature, etc., which many of us may have been expecting to be discussed, but because of the time constraints, we couldn't, touch upon it. Thank you, Dr. Gaikwad, sir, because there is another program lining up, and we would have to, hand over this session floor to Chelsea Prakash.
Right.
Miss Chelsea.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Balaram Gaikwad and Dr. Santosh Rathod, for an edifying session. For those who joined in late, this is Chelsea Prakash, and on behalf of Kaash Foundation, I welcome you all once again to the third International Faculty Development Program on Emerging Approaches and Trends in English Language and Literature. We are in the fourth day of the FTP, which is being organized by Kaash Foundation's Center for Academic and Professional Development in collaboration with LTI. We just had an insightful session by Dr. Balaram Gaikwad on emerging national and international trends in English literature, which was moderated by Dr. Santosh Rathod. I would request you all to post your questions on the YouTube live stream chat box. Moving ahead, I would now like to invite Dr. Prasant PG, Head and Associate Professor, Department of English, R. Shankar Memorial SNDP Yogam College, Kerala, to introduce our second esteemed speaker, Professor Raima. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. I'm extremely happy to be here with you on Kaash Foundation seminar today. And I'm also extremely happy to invite Professor Reema Al-Jaf, Professor at Languages and Translation Department at King Saud University, Riyadh. She has been a very successful teacher for the last 26 years, mentoring many of the students. And her area of interest, and she has been teaching ESL, English as a second language, and ESP, English for specific purposes, and also translation studies. And an amazing person with 700 plus publications, 250 books, 70 countries she has visited and made lectures on, and a peer reviewer, including Scopus Index Journal, recipient of Excellence Awards in Teaching, passionate about technology integration in English teaching, translations, and other kinds of studies. So it is always interesting to present a person just like you fetch a few shells from the sea. You always know that you can never fetch all of them. So, with this limited words, I would like to introduce an person with unlimited potential, Professor Reina Aljaf, who is going to present a paper titled Strategies for Effective Distance Learning in EFL College Courses During COVID-19. As all of you know, we live in a pandemic situation, and as Derrida has rightly put it, a metaphysics of presence that we all had in the classroom gave way for a virtual presentation. Even I'm sitting at my home and we are all meeting together. It's a kind of a virtual reality. She would be speaking about the concept that 51% of the people who attend classes are not very happy as they were when they were attending the regular classes. I mean, a chalk and talk, or rather a live classroom where teacher was present. And the free platforms, we'll be focusing on some of the free platforms, some of the areas of preparation of material, role of the, I mean, I would say the role that is redefined about the teacher, and also the technical support that she would also like to provide. I am very happy to invite for you, all of you, on all behalf of all of you, such a versatile personality, Professor Reema Al-Jaf. Welcome, madam. You have 45 minutes for the presentation, and maybe we have 15 minutes for presentation. All the participants are free to post their post. Professor Reema, you need to unmute yourself. Yeah, you're muted. Please unmute.
Muted.
Yeah. Now it's okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the introduction, and I would like to thank the Kaash Foundation for inviting me to these sessions. In my lecture today, I'm going to talk about the need for effective distance learning, problems with distance learning, orientation, training, and support, platform selection, infrastructure, online class logistics, instructional techniques and stages, feedback and motivation, online environment and communication, online testing, online course evaluation and review, and the teacher's roles. The need for effective distance teaching and learning. What I did, I conducted a questionnaire survey with a sample of students and instructors at a couple of universities. I asked them questions about their experience with distance education, teaching and learning last semester. About the advantages, the disadvantages, whether they like it, whether they did not, whether they prefer face-to-face or distance learning. I'm not going to report the positive aspects of distance learning. I'm going to focus on the problems. Now, 55% of the sample, the students and instructors, they didn't like distance learning. They said it was unsuccessful, it was ineffective, because distance learning was abrupt, no training for students and instructors. It was difficult for students to understand the lectures. It was a lot of hard work because they had classes back to back, like when they are in college. The students said they had problems communicating with instructors, to ask questions, to pose problems. The teacher said there was an attendance problem. The students would appear online, but in reality, they were away because they could replay the recording of the lecture anytime and as many times as they needed. Whenever they had an exam, some instructors said the students overslept and they either missed the whole final or they missed part of it. And the teacher had to give the students extra time or to give them a chance to take the exam over, because the university administration required instructors to be lenient with the students because it was just something sudden, and it was like an emergency. And only 20% of the total course mark was allocated to the final exam. The teacher said the students were not interested, were not enthusiastic, were not motivated. They didn't do homework. They refused to give oral presentations. They did not ask questions, did not participate in discussions like when they usually do in the classroom face to face. The students were worried about exams and passing. You can read about this even on Twitter. They complained about exams, about grades, about marks. Some teachers said online exams were ineffective. They had doubts about whether the students took the test themselves or someone else answered the questions for them. I have one example, like my neighbor's son, he's freshman. He had a problem. He was in jail because of that. And his sisters and brother-in-law, they attended classes for him on his behalf. And his sister in high school, she took even the final exams on his behalf. And he passed without even knowing anything. And the instructor of the course didn't know it. The instructors also said some students cheated on tests. The infrastructure was inefficient and they had problems with the internet. The internet connection was slow because, everybody went online at the same time. Hundreds of thousands, even millions of students, they went online. Okay, from now on, I'm going to talk about the strategies that teachers can use to overcome the problems that I mentioned when they teach online. Now, I would like to say something. Unlike you, I don't have a degree, a PhD in technology or in computer science. What I know about technology, I learned from experience. Technology is like cooking or like swimming. You don't learn swimming and cooking by reading a book and memorizing a book. You need to practice. You learn by doing. And I've been practicing and using technology for 20 years. So the first strategy is good infrastructure and also good internet connection. Now, when I was preparing this presentation, I had Indian students in my mind. And I thought that maybe some Indian students, they do not have computers, they don't have internet access. And I was thinking how we can help those. So if some students do not have computers, do not have internet access, we should have some alternatives for them. For example, they can use the school facilities. They can borrow a computer from their school. They can find computers and internet connection within their family or neighbors. They can use the community resources, such as the public library. If the public library has terminals and has internet connection, the teacher can give projects, group projects, can assign students into small groups consisting of some students who have computers and internet access, and those who do not, they can share, but they should wear a mask and keep their distance a little bit. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, when it started, I was watching different TV stations from different Arab countries. For example, in Jordan, the Ministry of Education set up caravans or mobile homes in remote areas with computers and internet access, and students in the desert and in remote villages, they could use those to attend classes. Computer companies, large companies, businessmen can donate computers either to schools or students who do not possess computers. Also, in Jordan and even in Saudi Arabia, lessons are broadcast to students on TV. No need for a special channel. Lessons can be broadcast through the sports channel. So they had a schedule. For example, in Jordan, they were broadcasting lessons for the different grade levels, especially 12th grade, because that's a very important year. Students go to the university after that. So they were using the sports channel to broadcast lessons, and they had like a schedule. And they would see a teacher in front of them with like a board and everything, and the teacher would be delivering the lesson. Okay, now strategy number 3 is selecting a platform. Here I'm going to give you just a variety of platforms, top free learning management systems and platforms for the year 2020. I cannot and do not claim that I know all of those, and I have tried all of those. I only tried the ones in red. For example, I tried Moodle, Sakai before, Google Classroom. I'm familiar with Google Classroom, with Adobe Connect, with Coursera, with IQ, Blackboard, because we have a subscription at King Saud University with Blackboard, WebEx, Zoom, Facebook also. Facebook has all the tools of a learning management system. YouTube, you can broadcast lectures through YouTube, like what we're doing now. Also, Skype, GoToMeeting, Vimeo can be used for web conferencing. Nowadays, many universities use Microsoft Teams and Google Meet. I tried also, I used Periscope, which is connected to Twitter. You can use Facebook because everybody can use Facebook. It has all the tools of a learning management system. You can use Illuminate. Illuminate is part of Blackboard. This is a web conferencing software. You can use Skype. You can use WhatsApp and Telegram, or Telegram for communicating with the students. You do not have to use all of those and be familiar with all of them. Just select one. Okay, strategy number 4 is practicing using the platform. Try to use a free platform. Try the platform before you go online and use it. Get to know the design, the different tools in the platform, how to turn the video, the audio on, how to upload material such as PPTs, how to share the screen, how to use the online chat. And also, sometimes there are issues like problems, like we had last session, for example, a problem with the audio or some noise. I heard it a couple of minutes ago. So we try to solve the issues that occur with the platform. You can seek help from colleagues who are good at using the platform, because some instructors are excellent, some are new or they are apprehensive of using technology. So instructors can help each other. Do not use many platforms, just try one platform per semester. And also, you can provide help to the students and train them if they have problems. Now, the fifth strategy is supplementing the platform. Any platform is not perfect. You need to use additional things to make up for the deficiencies in the platform. So that in total, you have everything that you have in the face-to-face classroom. You can supplement the platform with a blog, with a wiki, with podcasts, with an online discussion forum, with mobile apps, with a Facebook or a Twitter page, with Telegram, with WhatsApp, with hyperdocs. And hyperdocs are digital lesson plans, and or with Padlet. And Padlet is like paper for your screen. You can start with an empty page and then put whatever you like on it. When you use technology, always remember that technology does not teach by itself. And if you use technology, it does not make learning and skill development automatic. It depends on how we use it. If we use it well, then the results would be learning outcomes would be excellent, even face to face. If we or lecturing, if we use it well, we take into consideration theories of learning, then the learning outcomes would be excellent. If we don't, the lessons would be boring. Similarly, technology. If you leave the students on their own, they will not do anything. Students should not use the technology passively. They should have something to do, questions to answer, a task to do, try the platform and its tools before using it with students. Now, me, I've been using, let's say, Zoom or Cisco or Microsoft Teams for conferences. And every time I have a conference, I try it before, especially screen sharing. I try screen sharing before I go online so that if there are problems, I find a solution for those problems. Also try the apps, the PPTs, the videos, the websites before you assign them to the students. Now, strategy number 6 is orientation, training, and support. And here we have two types. We have technical training and support and instructional training and support. The university, when the university asks everybody to go online to use distance learning and teaching, the university should give the students and teachers an idea about distance learning, some kind of orientation, and should train students to teach to use the platform, because it's not a matter of directive or like an order from the ministry. It does not mean that all teachers, all students are competent in using technology. It provides also technical supports so that they help when teachers have a problem and help with technical problems. And also you can use peer training. Colleagues can train each other. As far as instructional and training support is concerned, of course, teachers need to learn how to select and design online material and how to prepare and administer online tests, how to communicate with students and respond to their questions. Also peer training, even in instructional material and tests. And team teaching can be used. Team teaching here, 2 people can teach together or they can take turns in teaching, and also sharing resources by the different colleagues. The 7th strategy is telling the students about online class logistics. Now, our students, they were not interested and they would sleep and miss class. This is because they did not know the rules. Nobody set rules for them, class management rules. Okay, so the first day of online classes, what you do, you give the students the online class rules regarding attendance, attending, missing classes, missing exams, assignments, deadlines, and also because they care about marks and grades, tell them about the distribution of course marks. Are you going to give marks to class participation, to attendance, to homework, to exams? Tell them also about exams because to them this is the most important thing. How many exams you're going to give them? The types of exams? How are you going to distribute the marks? Also, give them a quick idea about teaching techniques, about the resources you're going to use, online communication, how you can communicate with them, how can they ask you questions if they don't like to write questions, for example, in the chat box because some are shy. Also, it's very important to make online learning part of the course grade. If it's not part of the course marks, students, especially Saudi students, they will not take it seriously. They will not work. They only work for marks. Now, strategy number 8, how to select online course material and resources. You can supplement the content of the course with online videos, with online newspaper articles, with news reports, with internet websites, with online magazines. Also, there are some websites like the UNICEF, the World Health Organization, CNN, BBC, RT, Al Jazeera. They have articles, they have videos that are very useful for the students, especially when you teach language. Also, the mobile has hundreds and thousands of apps that are useful for students and they can be used and integrated in the courses. You can also integrate or recommend some online specialized dictionaries for the students. You can upload and share PDFs, PowerPoints, audio, video files. The students also can take part in searching or bringing up what they like searching for videos, for statistics, for daily news, for articles, for pictures. It does not mean that you have to use all of those in one class or in one semester. I'm giving you most of the options, and you pick and choose from these what's useful for a particular skill, for example, for a particular topic. Now, strategy number 9 is integrating global issues and participation goals. Now, one problem with courses is that they are remote from what's going on in the world, what's going on around the students. What students study in class is something, and what's outside the classroom is something else. We want to bring the whole world to the classroom, what's going on outside also to the classroom, and make it part of the learning process. For example, the teacher can integrate global themes and current issues such as COVID-19 daily news, COVID-19 country statistics, COVID-19 causes, treatment, prevention, how people work and study, daily life, people's daily life during the COVID-19 pandemic, and COVID-19's effect on the economy, on politics, society, education, health, culture, tourism, the environment, and other issues, whichever issue you'd like. By participation goals, I mean students should be involved in social educational, health, political, technological problems. They can describe an issue, a problem, an event, diagnose the problem, propose a solution. When we select an issue, an event, a problem, select issues with which the students are familiar and to which the students can relate. Don't select abstract stuff because the students would be having two difficulties: the difficulty of language itself, the vocabulary and the grammar, and also the difficulty of the information, the topic. If they don't have ideas, how are they gonna, for example, write an essay or speak about a topic? So if we use like familiar topics of interest to the students that they like, then they will be able to talk about those, write about them. Give a context. Don't give a very broad topic. Make it specific, make it focused and limited. Ask for just some details, a few causes, few solutions. Personalize the topic. Have the students talk about the topic as they see it, what they think about it. So, and give a context or situation. I will give an example later on. Okay, now I'm going to move on to practicing. The 10th strategy is practicing a variety of language skills, since my presentation is about teaching English. We can practice different kinds of language skills online, exactly like face-to-face in the classroom. Students can practice listening, speaking, reading, writing, pronunciation, vocabulary, grammar. To practice listening, the teacher and the students can listen to the news, watch online videos or podcasts. They can summarize the content. They can also answer comprehension questions. They can talk about COVID-19 topics. They can search a topic, watch a video, and then talk about it in class. They can read also about COVID-19 topics, answer comprehension questions about the text, make an outline of the main ideas and the important details in the text, or summarize the text. They can write about COVID-19 topics, such as reports, summaries, keep a journal, daily journal. This is very important because the students will be writing about what they know. Also, they can practice writing an academic essay consisting of one paragraph, 5 paragraphs, or they can write a term paper, a group project. Also, the teacher can choose some of those, not all of them. It's impossible to do everything, all of these in one semester or in 1 week. Now, pronunciation, students can also practice pronunciation. Whether decoding when the word is written down or orally, they can practice connecting graphemes with phonemes, phonics, that's pronunciation rules, stress, assimilation, elision, intonation, all issues related to pronunciation. Also, they can learn vocabulary, but in context. They can learn about prefixes, suffixes, roots, how to break words into their components, such as the words epidemic, endemic, pandemic, lockdown, outbreak, and so on. If they are reading, they can infer meaning from context. If focus is on a productive skill, such as speaking or writing, then you need to pre-teach vocabulary that the students are going to use in when they speak or when they write. Same thing, teach grammar in context you can teach tenses or complex senses, passive voice, any structure, but teach it in context. For example, through the reading passage. Now here I come to the different teaching techniques that the teacher can use with the students. Of course, since we are teaching online the lecture, if the teacher speaks for 50 minutes and the students just sit like this and watch and listen like they do in the classroom. Now, teaching online is different. I even use these when I teach face to face. Now, the strategies I'm mentioning, most of them, they are also applicable in the classroom face to face, or if we use technology. So the teacher can use, it's very easy to prepare a PowerPoint presentation. At least the teacher should prepare a PowerPoint presentation. We can use the flipped classroom technique, or the students can work on a project, or we can use problem solving, role playing. Students can give oral presentations, they can read and write reports, they can conduct interviews and come and talk about the interviews in the classroom, or write about them, write an essay about the interview. The teacher can use flowcharts to connect information. The teacher can also invite a speaker online. If they are on Zoom, you can invite 100 people, no problem. Also, we can use team teaching. 2 instructors or more can teach together. Also, experiential learning. Experiential learning, it means learning that depends on or based on the students' experiences, the students' prior knowledge, the students' background knowledge. Also, students can write a daily journal. This would be very interesting because they would be writing about things that happened to them, they saw, they heard every day. So they would be practicing writing without feeling that they are writing. They won't feel it's a chore. The students can work individually. They can work in pairs, even if they are in different places. Each is in his or her home. And they also can work in small groups or teams. Now, the assignments and the activities should not focus on rote memorization and recall, like we do face to face. Even for face to face, the assignments and activities should not focus on rote memorization and recall. Assignments should focus on critical thinking, application, transfer to new situations, and so on. Higher level thinking skills. Do not allow students to copy and paste. Sometimes they copy and paste without even reading the article or knowing what's in it. At least they should summarize it. They should give their opinion, critique the article, their opinion of the ideas in the article, be on students' engagement and active role in the teaching learning process. After presenting the new material or the new skill, use guided practice online under your supervision with feedback right after presenting the new material. And use independent practice at home. Here, students practice, they do the exercises on their own. Give a clear, direct, detailed instruction. If the students, they don't know what to do, they don't understand the instructions, they will not perform the task well or the way they should. When you give a project, give a presentation, give an assignment, give a term paper, usually teachers, or some of them, assume that the students, they know how to do it. We should not leave the students, they should not work on their own. We should guide them throughout the process, even when they are PhD students. Usually supervisors, they leave them on their own to do the thesis, and they have problems, they have questions. They don't know how to do this, how to do that. And the supervisor expects them to know everything. For example, you can give students to find answers online. They can analyze, they can compare, they can fill in a table. You may give statistics, for example, and ask students to make a graph. Let's say COVID-19 statistics, daily statistics, and ask students to make a graph or a flow chart. The students can prepare questions and conduct an interview. They can search a topic, read and give a class presentation about it, and the students' classmates, they can ask questions and also make comments and even evaluate the presentation. Now, it's very when we teach, no matter what we teach. We teach psychology, we teach sociology, we teach medicine, we teach engineering. We need to connect information, summarize information, show relationships among ideas and information, the content that we teach to the students. So the best way to do that is to use graphic organizers and Microsoft Word and Microsoft PowerPoint. They can, for example, do like this pyramid, inverted pyramid, circles like these, or a pie graph like this one, or like this, or like this. So they are already there. You only need to fill the information. I have more examples from the UNICEF website about topics that students can read. For example, now the UNICEF website has videos, has topics, has articles that we can look at and then select some for the students to watch and read. Now, some of the titles, Georgia faces its lead problem head on and heading back to school in the pandemic and coping with COVID-19. Coronavirus disease, what parents should know. How to talk to your children about bullying, measles, explain, and child marriage around the world infographic. Here more from UNICEF website. These are articles, gender equity, kids' video diaries about life during COVID-19. This is very interesting because they bring a child from Burma, from South Africa, from Nigeria, from Egypt, and they talk about their daily life in just a couple of minutes during the COVID-19 pandemic. Child marriage, how Wuhan went from quiet streets to packed pools. What are the rules in France and other parts of the world, of Europe? Why Spain is seeing a second COVID wave? Okay, we can also give them a picture. I selected just few here. We don't give them all these in one session. Just one or two, and they can choose to talk about this one or this one. So they can examine these pictures and then talk about them orally to practice speaking, or they can write a paragraph, half a page, one page about them, about what they see, and they generate ideas. They come up with their own ideas, with their own interpretation and description of the pictures. This one about forest fires, and this one in the middle, no justice, no peace, about the protests in America. And then COVID-19, this is the Grand Mosque in Mecca, Al-Haram. It was empty because they locked it. People were not allowed to go and pray inside for several months. Okay, here I have examples of videos. I got those, I selected them from the UNICEF website, from BBC, from CNN. They are very interesting. When you select, unfortunately, I cannot play any of them because I'm afraid of technical problems, and the other thing because of the time. When you select a video, you should pay attention to the video content, the theme, the length of the video. It's long, it's 2 minutes, 3 minutes. The speed of the speaker, sometimes the speaker speaks very fast and the students will not be able to follow and understand. And also you should select a topic that is of interest to the students.
Okay, madam, a gentle reminder that you have 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I have examples here of role playing. For example, if you were the Minister of Health, give 5 actions that you would take to reduce corona cases. How can you convince people to stay home, wear a mask, keep social distance? Okay, here I have a sample reading text, and I have highlighted, for example, the main ideas and some vocabulary items, some place names, some conjunctions. Words, for example, like scientist, specialist, to teach suffixes, and some words also to teach pronunciation. Same thing here. These are the components of the reading text. And then after reading the passage, we can summarize the content of the passage. This is paragraph A, B, C, D. And then the introduction and the regions and why. Here are just the main ideas of each paragraph. We can present also the structure of the passage in a table. This can be empty. We just give them this. The regions, where, examples, characteristics, and then on the left the paragraphs, and then the students fill in. They fill the chart. There are 3 instructional stages: before the task and during and task phase, pre-task phase, and then post-task phase. In the pre-task phase, the teacher searches for the material, posts a task, and sets goals, and gives pre-questions, sets a deadline, give them time limit. The students then in the task phase, they work on the task. And also the teacher provides help and guidance. After the task, the students discuss and answer questions or talk about difficulties, and the teacher gives feedback. The students also give feedback to each other. Now, strategy number 13 is a given communicative feedback. Do not correct a student's error in public because that's embarrassing for them. When you give feedback about errors, just tell them the type of error, the location of error, and the students have to correct their mistakes on their own. You can correct the mistakes indirectly, and students can also correct each other's mistakes. Always give positive reinforcement, or some of my conference presentations which teachers might find useful.
Yeah.
Now, whatever I talked about in this presentation, I use with my students.
Yes.
Everything is tried on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you
Professor
very
Rima.
much.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Rima, for a very timely reflection on a very contemporary issue of online teaching. We have few questions coming up waiting for you in the chat room. One question number 1 is that what would be the dividing line between the conventional classroom teaching and open and distance learning with the advent of ICT in education in the days to come? It's a question, futuristic question.
Okay. Of course, since we live in the age of technology and the students even live in the age of technology, most students, even little ones, even children, they have a mobile phone. They browse the mobile phone all the time. They can use different things, Facebook and apps and this and that, games. So it's inevitable. In my opinion, the best choice is to use blended learning. We can continue to teach in the classroom, but we can also integrate technology in addition to the textbook and to what we do in the classroom. So we supplement. We call this blended learning. In order to make use of the advantages of both modes, face-to-face and also technology. So it's a must. It's no longer up to us because it's there already. And now with Corona, everybody was forced to work online. Everybody was forced to study online. We had no choice. Whether we like technology or not, we were forced to go online and teach. Even small children, first grade, second grade, they all work online or watch TV, watch lessons on TV. So it's inevitable. But if we go back to the classroom, the best thing is to use both. Continue to use the textbook, but you have to supplement the textbook with some of the things that I mentioned. Okay, next question. I can't
Prashant, you're mute. Prashant, you're mute. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, you want me to?
That question was from Dr. Santosh Rathod. Hope Santosh Rathod you answered. So she advocates a kind of a blended learning. Now, next question is that does the new kind of learning make the teachers technology dependent?
No, because as I said, you cannot just tell the students, okay, go watch some videos on YouTube or go select some videos. Students, they are still dependent psychologically, dependent on the teacher. They need to be told what to do, which one. Like your children, you cannot just leave them on their own and tell them, okay, go have dinner, go make up your room. If you don't supervise them, you don't give them guidance, you don't help them, they will not make the best out of the technology. So the teacher never loses his or her role, but the role of the teacher is different in when the teacher uses technology. And I mentioned what the teacher will be doing. The teacher will be a facilitator, a guide. The teacher would recommend certain videos, would prepare questions, would prepare activities for the students to work on, would be following up the students, would be guiding the students and helping them while they are working on the activity or task with a particular technology or a particular resource, internet resource.
Yeah, thank you. And the next question is that, see, in a regular classroom, in a conventional classroom, you have an eye contact with all the students.
Yes.
Now, does this lack of eye contact would somehow affect the quality of teaching or learning or even communication?
I don't think so. Because some students are even shy to speak directly in front of their classmates or their teacher. So they have the courage to talk online because they feel they are invisible. Nobody is watching them. Although, of course, everybody is watching them. It is true that eye contact is important, but still we can make up for this through messages that we send, through communication on. Nowadays, we all use smileys and we use words and flowers and this and that when we send messages. So these will make up a little bit for eye contact and even facial expressions. They can be seen on the screen. Now I'm using my hands, and so you can see me, or smiling or frowning. You can see me. And if the students turn their cameras on, I can also see their faces. So we can make up for eye contact and gestures and all of these with like messages, whether group messages, I send one group to all of them, like good morning, and they say good morning, and then I can even send contact individual students, either in private or in public.
Yeah, thank you. And the last question. Yeah, last question is that we were talking about teacher-centric methods. Then we shifted to student-centric methods. Now the COVID has created a new contact called the technology-centric method. So how do you look at this change from student-centric method to technology-centric method?
No, I think with all teaching modes, still focus should be on the student. Whether we are using a traditional face-to-face or we are using technology, because the technology is not the one that's learning. The purpose is not the technology. Our aim is the students. Everything is directed and towards the students. So still, even when we use technology, focus should be on the students. The students should be engaged, should have an active role in learning. Still, even online, they should be answering questions, they should be giving presentations, they should be reading, they should be speaking, they should be doing everything, answering questions. They even can bring their websites, like they bring, for example, a book to the classroom and show it to you and ask you, can I read this? Do you think this is good for me? They can do the same thing. Select apps, select videos, and I used to do that. Use student suggestions. When I taught interpreting, and of course, I taught interpreting in a lab. The first week of classes, I would ask the students to bring their own text from magazines, from newspapers, and every week I would use the students' text, select from the text, and use text, select ones from what the students brought to me, in addition to my own text. But the majority of texts I used in the classroom were the ones that the students brought to me. And we would be interpreting and working on those in the lab. Because students would be more interested if you use their own material and appreciate what they bring to you and show them it's important. Their input is very important. So it's never technology based. I think it should be always student centered and student based.
Yeah. Thank you. We have 1 more minute. So that what is your final message to English teachers?
Well, my final message is to be patient, not to be scared of technology, and also just look at it as a game. Look at it as cooking. If you don't know, you learn cooking by doing. You don't learn it from a book. Similarly, technology. You should not be scared of it. Just click on it, open it, look at this, look at that, open this, open that, and then go to those websites. It's like when you want, for example, to look for a recipe online, or you want to look for something. You can do the same thing if you want to look for resources. You just enter keywords in Google, and you will get a lot. You enter just keywords in YouTube, and you will get a lot. So what you do, you don't assign.
Yeah, unfortunately, she had come up with a technical issue. So it is time to wind up. So I'm extremely happy. Yeah, Geeta, is she able to establish the connection? Let me go to the.
I don't think so. Yeah, please conclude.
Let me go to the concluding remarks since it is time. I am extremely happy that we just had Professor Reima, who spoke from the heart. What I felt maximum was that she was reflecting on a contemporary issue to a movement from a chalk and talk, lip to lip, kind of lip to ear kind of a movement to a technology enabled virtual classroom. She was all speaking from her heart. She was very affectionate. She did exchange her long teaching career and also the very short term COVID pandemic situation. And she was very comfortably putting across the ideas, though she had to hurry a little bit at the end. Yeah, there is any. Are our questions ready for hearing online? Of course, there's a question on my chat. Is there a question for Professor Rema? I think the connection we have lost. So I may not. I don't think that we can re-establish the connection in a short while now. It is already nearing 5. So I'm extremely happy to be part of this webinar, Kaash Foundation webinar, and also I was asked to moderate this particular session, which I particularly like because I too was engaged in online teaching activity for a long time. I was initially skeptic. Now it is all right because everybody has to go with that. But given a choice, I too would like to teach in a classroom, which to me or to any English teacher is more comfortable than teaching it in front of a computer. So thank you very much, Dr. Rima, for being with us today and sharing your ideas, thoughts in a very affectionate manner. Thank you very much. And this session has come to an end. I thank everybody, especially the authorities, for giving this opportunity to me. Thank you. Over to you, Chelsea.
Thank you, Professor Rima and Dr. Prashant Viji, for an insightful session. For those who joined in late, this is Chelsea Prakash, and on behalf of Kaash Foundation, I welcome you all once again to the third International Faculty Development Program on Emerging Approaches and Trends in English Language and Literature. We are in the fourth day of the FPD, which is being organized by Kaash Foundation's CAPD in collaboration with LTI. We just had an enlightening session by Professor Rima on strategies for effective distance learning in EFL college courses during COVID-19, which was moderated by Dr. Prashant Viji. I would request you all to post your questions on YouTube livestream chat box. Moving ahead, I would now like to invite Dr. Satyavan, Associate Professor, Department of English, KJ Somaya College of Arts and Commerce, Mumbai, to introduce our next esteemed speaker, Dr. Tikaram Pujel. Over to you, sir.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Sir, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you so much. At the outset, I thank Kaash Foundation, Academy, and
Sorry, sir. Sir, can you be a little louder?
Sure. At the outset, I thank Kaash Foundation, Center for Academic and Professional Development, English Language Teachers Association of India, for organizing 6-day International Faculty Development Program on emerging approaches and trends in English language and literature. My special thanks to Dr. Avkash Jadhav, Founder Trustee, Dr. Geeta Ajit, Joint Director, Avkash, Dr. Ramakrishna Vise, LTI Chapter, Dr. Sushila Vijay Kumar, Dr. Sachin Bumbe, Mr. Anwar Sheikh, all from LTI. Really, it's a great evening for all of us because now here we are with one of the leading academic luminaries of the world, and I'm really feeling proud and privileged to introduce Dr. Tikaram Paudel. Tikaram Paudel, who is a PhD in linguistics, coordinates Research and Innovation Center at School of Education, Kathmandu University, and teaches courses on research methodology, applied linguistics, critical discourse analysis, contemporary theories of East and West, and world Englishes for masters and MPhil programs at Department of Language Education, School of Education, Kathmandu University. Prior to joining Kathmandu University in 2011, Dr. Paudel worked as an expert in South Asian languages
at the Department of Linguistics, University of Konstanz, Germany. Bowden, well known for developing the theory of ergativity and individual level prediction to explain the ergative nominative alterations in Indo-Aryan and Tibeto-Burman languages. He has extensively worked on the case system, fixed suspension, tense, aspect, and modality of South Asian languages. He gave talks on issues of linguistics in international forums such as University of Leipzig, Germany, University of Stuttgart, Germany, University of Gothenburg, Sweden, University of Bergen, Norway, South Asian Language Analysis Roundtable Conference in Mysore, 2011. Second International Conference of Linguistic Association of Pakistan, Lahore, 2016. An LTI Conference, Delhi, 2019. An International Conference on Hermeneutics, SKIT, Jaipur, 2020. Some of his recent publications are Santali Internalized Text and Grammatical Notes, 2016. Cross-referencing person number exponents, sources, cumulation and separation, 2017. Position of English in policy documents of Nepal, a critical discourse analysis, 2019. Ergativity and stage for individual level prediction in Nepali and Manipuri, that is in 2020. Nepali ergativity, its origin and evolution, so on and so forth. Dr. Bowden currently concentrates his research on indigenous knowledge system, national varieties of English language, and society, etc. He served as a member of the editorial board for the 2018-19 volumes of Nepalese Linguistics, a journal of the Linguistic Society of Nepal. At present, he is a member of the editorial board of the Journal of Education and Research, a journal of School of Education, Kathmandu University. Having this a brief introduction to this great academic luminaries of South Asia as well as the international level. So really, sir, we are very proud to have you here, and I'm sure that your expertise, your knowledge, and then your insights into the subject will definitely enlighten our listeners across the globe, those who are on live on YouTube, those who are on live on the Facebook, as well as on almost all the medias that we are trying to cover up. So thank you so much. Once again, we welcome you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Satyavan. It's a great pleasure to be with this intellectual group. And I'm very much grateful to Kaash Foundation, Dr. Abukas Yadav, and Dr. Geeta, and many other friends from India. And it's a great advantage, I feel, for me to be here with you. And particularly, I feel the two great sessions by Dr. Gaikwad and Dr. Rima made me, or put me, planning to talk this session on technology in education, and from tape recorder to Zoom and Google Meet. This is what I am trying to tell a story of my last 30 years as an educator. And this is what the slide goes. This is what I feel. I took it from a recent book by Huang and et al. This is how we started. The technology is not the new thing. It started in education somehow about 2500 BCE. At that time, we have abacus, the more important thing that we know about. And for about 4,000 years, there were not much developments in education or technological education or education in technology. And when that German scientist developed that printing machine, sometimes in the 15th century BC, 15th century, and after that, there was a lot of changes in education because more and more people started reading books, and these books were available to them. And by 1800, we have camera, and we have radio, and we have moving pictures by 1900, and we have computers, and In our part of the world, internet arrived sometimes in the end of the last century, sometimes in 90s, and since then we have been using it. We have smartphones, and when we come to these writers, they just imagined up to the 2000, and in last 20 years also we have lots of development in technology. This is what that Professor Rima was also talking about. And for me, I just wanted to look at what is happening there with this part of technology that is going on. I was just looking at the recent National Education Policy 2020 of Government of India, and when I was just looking at, I found in a 66-page document, the word technology is used for 75 times. That means I can say that technology is given much importance in this document as well. And some of the key features of this are this document tells extensive use of technology in teaching and learning, access of latest educational technology to every classroom, making use of technology, processes and outcomes through technology, enhancing digital education for social inclusion and equity. These are some of the reasons of that National Education Policy of 2020 of India. And somehow similar, last year, Nepal had the new education policy, and this policy document uses a little bit more time, 75 times the word technology in its text, and it has emphasis on things like it tries to be technology friendly education system in Nepal, integrating technology in education, and it also aims to enable every teacher to use educational technology. Another thing that it emphasizes is teaching learning based on technology. These are the things that I just try to look at the policy of recent policy of education policy document of India and Nepal, and somehow these are some of the things. These buzzwords often they appear in educational policy documents of the regional, also maybe Pakistan or maybe Bangladesh or Sri Lanka or other countries as well. Yeah. And actually, what I think is, what is education for? We have to start looking at that. And I think education is for developing skills, developing knowledge, and higher order reasoning capabilities of the citizens. And because these are very essential skills, knowledge, and higher order reasoning capabilities are very important for the human resource that a nation requires to run it. And another thing is that education also makes the citizens responsible, and it turns out the learners a lifelong learners. And effective use of technology in education facilitates learning. And I think teaching, when I say teaching, I always also mean learning. Because without learning, teaching doesn't take place for me. I exist as a teacher because there are students. Without students, I do not exist as a teacher. That's why the focus for me is always on learning and not on teaching. You can be a good teacher, but if you are not able to make your learners feel that they learn, then you are not a good teacher at all. So, one important thing is that technology is not in itself everything, just like Professor Rima was also talking about. We use technology for improving, enhancing the performance of the learners. And another thing is that I take technology that it creates resources for the learners. And I don't think I need any explanation because in previous session, Professor Rima had discussed in detail, in great detail. Then educational technology, audiovisual aids, and it has also network of computers like internet and other kind of things. We have various mobile and smart technology now. We have cloud schools and virtual classrooms available today. And this session that we are going to do is just like the part of the virtual classroom that we expect. But all are these things possible in a context like ours? And I'm looking at the data of two countries, Nepal and India. And here, India has 1,400 million population, and out of these, only 687 million people have access to internet. This is the data based on 2020 January. And all of those 687 users of internet in India, 629 million people in India, they use internet through smartphones. Now the question is it very possible to use internet classes or online classes to have in mobile phones or smartphones? How feasible is that? There is another question. And Nepal is a country. Now it is almost 30 million people we have. And total population of 28.87 at the time. And at that time, in January, only 10.21% million people had internet. That means still a large number of people, our population is out of reach of internet. And the policy documents that have been making a promise that we'll do these kind of things with the technology and all those kind of things is still a big question mark how much we can achieve. Now, there are some innovations that have been made in educational technology. One is I am quite familiar, and I very often use this one in my own classroom. Is an IIT professor from Delhi, Sugata Mitra. He had some kind of experiment research, and it was called "Hole in the Wall," and it is now available in YouTube also. And this was the one of the TED talks that he has given, and there he put a computer with internet connection somewhere in the public place, and children used to come and learn and that kind of things. And he did it very well. And later on, in one of his talks, that such a hole in the wall was done there in Bangalore, and the children from the surrounding, they started coming and they started learning it. And one of the little girl who used to do this kind of things, later on she developed her English in such a good manner that later on she became one of the person to work in this outsourcing resources that people work for other countries or US or United Kingdom, something like that. And similar type of thing was also conducted in Ireland, and it was called a program called Anish Information Based Town. The idea was that the Irish government had a plan that government will provide $15,000 equivalent of that money to a certain town, so that that town can manage internet and computer to the people there, and they will make their websites for all business, and they will also encourage smart card for cashless society. And these were the things. But one important thing, this writer Warsaw in 2003, she comments that all these kind of things were done, but people were not very much handy, and there was little preparation for that, and these programs were not very successful. Although Sugata Mitra says it was very successful, but there are still some of the critique of this system. And my story begins here. This is Manipur University, a central university now, but at the time it was not, in the state of Manipur, northeastern India. And when I started my master's degree there in English language and literature, then it was something like that. The technology was not the way that we understand now. And what happened while I was doing my master's first year in 1990, then our library had a photocopy machine, and we were greatly excited that once we have a photocopy machine, we don't have to stay there in the library till late, because we used to stay there in the library for about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock at night. And by the way, when we get this photocopy machine, then we can make those pages photocopied and bring it back to the hostel and we can read. This was the idea, and we were quite excited. But when I tell these kind of things to my daughters now, they make fun of me. Then, and another thing was the use of technology was what was there. We used to have a language lab because we used to have our class in English language department. So what we used to do at the time was we used to listen to the speeches of native speakers of English, sometimes great writers, sometimes great political leaders. We used to have cassettes, and we have to put that into the tape recorder, and we have to play it, and we have to listen it. And once we did that one, when we listened to it carefully, then we had to record our own voice there, the way that we speak English. And that was what our professor used to listen again, and he used to grade based on how close our pronunciation was to the native speakers of English. And I think by then, India was independent for about 43 years. And but that still India had colonial, my teachers, my professor might have something like colonial mindset that Macaulay wanted to have. And that continued because the idea was when we had that kind of practice in the language lab, and we came out from the language lab outside, and we used to talk to the people from other departments in the locality. And the way that we used to speak our English, they used to think that we were alien because they found our pronunciation and accent of English was completely artificial. And it didn't, the way that what we learned in the language lab didn't remain for with us for a longer period of time. Once we went to the market, we went to the job market, all our English that we learned there went down, and we picked up the local variety of English, and that was what happened. And still, I don't claim, although I have been to European countries, and there also I don't have any problem, and I still speak with an accent of South Asia. Here I don't have any problem. When I travel and when I make presentations in conferences and webinars like this, people do not have any problems in understanding the accent of English that I speak. And after that, I moved to Kathmandu, and this is my university, Tribhuvan University, where I did my PhD in linguistics, and I also did one master's in MA in linguistics there. And here we learn another phase of technology development. As a student of linguistics, I had to learn PRAT. PRAT is a software that helps us to analyze the phonological analysis of any language. And I learned that one, and I wrote my master's dissertation on a language that was not previously described. It was a Rajbangshi language, a language spoken in the eastern part of Nepal and in between Assam and Bengal border. And I analyzed that and I presented, and later I worked further, and the book was published from Germany later on. And then I learned there another software. It's a part of technology. That is what we used to call toolbox. And toolbox uses to help us analyze the morphemes of a language. And I worked with this morphological analysis in toolbox. And for that, I used that one for my PhD. And I worked for Nepali and Manipuri, and all that was wonderful. And I greatly wondered, how do all these things are done by these technologies? And things happen. And I used extensively toolbox later on. And that book, Santali, it was especially written for computational linguists. And I analyzed that one, and I again used toolbox. and the book was published again from Germany. And it is quite useful that the way used. And after defending my dissertation in 2006, I moved to Germany, and this is the place where I work. This is called University of Constance, Department of Linguistics. And here I was working as a language scientist, and I had to work extensively on South Asian languages. I worked on Sanskrit, I worked on Vedas, classical Sanskrit, Nepali, classical Nepali, Manipuri, Santali, and Newar. And I had to create lots and lots of database for that, these languages. And I again had to move on with the help of toolbox, and I was able to do that. And I extensively worked on case system, affix suspension, tense aspect, and I also taught courses on field linguistics, South Asian languages, morphology, and I prepared database for classical Sanskrit, Santali, Newari, and Nepali. And this way, this technology has become always part of me. And I returned to Nepal in 2011. And immediately after that, I joined Kathmandu University. This is our university where I work. And in the left-hand side, there is the School of Education where I completely belong to. And this one. Then what happened? Whenever there is any crisis, then we always take help from the, what do we say, from the technology. In 2013, when I joined it, we started in April 2015. We had devastating earthquake, and our building was not safe. We constructed a makeshift classrooms, and all the students, it was not possible to accommodate on those classrooms, and we are forced to go online and distance learning mode. And face-to-face classrooms were suspended, and we had to move to ODL mode. And the thing was that although on April 12th the earthquake was there, but there were other shaking. The buildings was continued even after 6 months, and it was very devastating. The experience was much more devastating than the COVID-19 these days. And we had to move for asynchronous online delivery. We had to put everything there, just like that we were using Moodle. And immediately after the earthquake, there was a blockade, and it continued for about 9 months, and we were not able to move because there were no fuel, no food, and we were not able to move to the university, and we started doing from home, and that continued till February 2016. And in that situation, we started working with Moodle, and we did lots of research, and that happened. And a Moodle platform looks something like this, and these are some of the courses that I did. And let me open this one, and this is how we do it. And this is our Moodle course there, and it happens like this. And these are the courses that I have been teaching since long. And this semester, I have been teaching these courses. And just see, this is how it works. And here we have I have come to the course, and here these are my students. They are enrolled, and they visit, and they come, and we do, and we work together. And this is the way that we do. And
Dr. Tikaram, I think your screen is not visible right now.
Is it not visible?
No, not yet. Would you want Amaya to share the screen of your PPTs?
I think it's okay. It's okay. Just I will come back to the. Is this visible?
Yes, now it is. Yes, please carry on.
Okay. Then we went to the Moodle and okay, and then this year by March, this COVID-19 came, and things became very, very scary. We were locked down. There was fear and anxiety, and the situation was abnormal. Our university was shut down, and we were not having any face-to-face classrooms. We rely on online classes, and we used Moodle, and we came to Zoom and Google Meet and all other kind of things. We have changed the mode of exams, and we went for open book exams. We went for webinars, and but one important thing was that Kathmandu University was able to continue all academic activities without any interruption. We didn't lose even a month or even a week. We were not disturbed. And what happens? We know that the children, number of children, this graph I took from UNESCO's recent publication, and it shows that the highest number of children affected was in the month of April and May, and gradually, but even in our part of the region, in South Asia, all the children are not able to go to school, even universities and colleges in limited number we are doing on this kind of things. So in such a situation, School of Education, Kathmandu University has been able to continue the classes, and we have done all the things. Last semester, February to July semester came to an end successfully. We didn't miss even a single class. We conducted exam, and the students took all their exams. Results have been published, and new semester has already been started. And this is then another important thing. Just like, for example, Dr. Rima was talking of, and when I was listening to her, it was very clear that she was trying to cater the younger children, maybe school children. And here we were dealing with master and MPhil students. So it was a bit easier for us because the number was very much limited, and those type of face-to-face examinations were not possible. So we created a little bit different way. We designed a different way, and we went for the presentation. We conducted a webinar, and this is the way that our student used to present in the webinar. I was teaching this advanced qualitative research, and this is how we have been doing. This is the lecture 1 and lecture 2, and this is the thing. And here, it is particularly an exam, and we conducted it for 5 days. And in the 5 days, our students presented to a very large number of audience. There were audience from 10 different countries, more than 500 live audience were watching. They were questioning, and this is what I took them to be an examination. And this is how face-to-face classroom, or this is one of the presentation of one of the students, and they walked on, they did the research. And just let me here is one short video. I will show that what we did. And we have everything. We went to the Facebook Live and streamed it, and it was very interesting as well. And the students also loved to watch it. And this is something like this. Okay. So we started like this.
So the screen is not visible.
Not visible, sir? Okay. Okay, I'm coming to that. Okay, and we have these kind of things, and all those activities were done, and it was completely new to the students because now we have stopped.
Now it is visible, sir.
That visible, sir? I think it is not visible.
Your screen is visible now, Dr. Tikaram. Yes. Oh, it's gone again. It's gone again.
It's on again.
Okay. Okay. Is it visible now?
Yes, it's visible now. It's visible.
Okay. And this is what we did. One important thing in online learning, teaching and learning was that the issue of the assessment. Once we complete the thing, and just like earlier in face-to-face examination system, we used to do set the question, and we have to ask the students to sit for 3 or 4 hours, and they will write. And but because all these things were not possible because of the corona pandemic, and the way that I was expecting to do it, we changed it, and now it is completely in a different way. I changed the assessment system. I asked them to do online research. They selected the methodology. They went for the data. They conducted online interviews, and they analyzed it, and they put into the theory. They wrote the report, and all these kind of things were presented to a wider audience. And it was also a new experience to the students as well. And based on these presentation, and once they got the presentation, they got lots of comments from the audience as well. And these audience, the remarks and the comments, based on that, I graded them. And it was completely a new thing to the new experience to them, all of them. Then but students, in every semester with every group, normally I just want to know their reaction. What was it happening? How did it? How do they take it? And based on these kind of things, when I asked the students, they came up with this kind of reactions. They think all the students, my students, think that online classes at such a time of crisis are very useful, and they say that from face to face hopping to online classes, it helps them maintain the academic calendar, and no student was there to lose any academic career. And once they complete it, they can go for further studies, or they can plan for their job and other kind of things. And another important thing was that also students get familiarized with the new technology. It is very important skill. Let's say it's the skill of the 21st century. And one important thing that online learning through Zoom or Google Meet, it provided an opportunity for the student to for an uninterrupted learning. And many of my students feel that the online teaching or online classes were as effective as the face-to-face classes. And some of them remark that these classes were conducting classes online was wonderful, and it was energizing. But there were some problems still. And the most important problem was that we also facing in this webinar also, the internet connections were intermittent sometimes. We're not very sure that we'll have. And when I am presenting this one also, I have somewhere in my mind that it is possible that sometimes my connection will go away and I'll be disturbed. And this creates a kind of psychological trauma, stress, both to the teacher and the students. And sometimes these kind of things get distracted, and we end up with some kind of mess. And assignments also problem for the students. And one important thing is that, just like other scholars also mentioned previously, there is there is little chances of interaction between teacher and student, and all that kind of things. And online classes means that means we have to understand that interactions between teachers and students and other people, and when we go to the university, we learn so many things. When we go to the canteen and we talk and we have a cup of tea, lots of interaction happen there, and we have been losing all those kind of things because of this online type of things. And the original charm, attraction, or importance of learning, meeting the teachers, other teachers and peers and different kind of people, and that chance is missing when we go for online classes. And technology has some kind of problems also. Most of the times, the scholars often say that technology brings a digital divide in the society. All the activities that I have been describing in this presentation, it doesn't mean that they are wonderful. They are doing good things, but in the same time, they have several problems as well. And one of the most important thing is that digital divide. And digital divide has multiple facets. One important thing digital divide is the issue of accessibility. As I have mentioned already, 687 million people in India have accessibility to internet. And what can we think of other people? That is almost half of the population has internet. And shall we go uh, thinking that half of the population has, and what happens to the other half of the population who do not have internet connectivity? And out of that, how many of our people have laptop or smartphone who can use it? We have a very shocking news that I read somewhere in the newspaper that a father in some district of Gujarat sold his buffalo to buy a smartphone to his daughter, and it was also the problem that one of the uh, girls, I think somewhere in Kerala, she committed suicide because she didn't have a smartphone. And we have this kind of things also. And as an educators, we have to also think how can we minimize these kind of situations. And now the problem is not only of access to laptops, computers, or smartphones. Now sometimes I think, is the notion of digital divide still relevant? For example, in the richer part of the world, Europe and America, or let's say those developed countries, all of them have these devices, smartphone or computer or laptop, and internet is affordable in this part of the world. And if this is the situation, then digital divide has nothing to do. But what happens in our part of the country, in the context of South Asia, where we have poor communities, the devices are not available, the internet is not available, and what are the situation? How can we deal with? This is another problem that has been brought by the use of technology today. And another thing that is, I think, another issue that it brings is the social inclusion. Social inclusion. When suppose, for example, whether you use WebEx or whether you use this Zoom or whether you use this Google Meet, all these platforms have been designed thinking that it is for normal human beings. What about to those children who are handicapped, who are visually impaired, who are not good enough to listen like us? Then for such type of students, how can we incorporate and bring to the mainstream? Besides, let's forget about those people, poor communities who do not have the access to computers and internet. So another thing is that for me, social inclusion refers to something that empowers for equal participation for life chances. By life chances, I mean the opportunities that a child has. And can we do that kind of thing? And if there is social inclusion, that is the minimization of discrimination of any kind in terms of gender, in terms of disability, in terms of religion, caste, or traditional practices and how we can include in our educational system. That means the question is still goes to the recent national education policy of India and education policy of Nepal 2019. How can we include all these kind of things? I've not found that technology is useful, but for some people who are not good enough in the position to use technology, doesn't that make a further divide further? And what about? And I was wondering, whenever I come to any kind of debate on education, there I always find that the panelists are either from ministers, politicians, bureaucrats. I have never found any teacher, any classroom teacher who has the real experience of teaching in the classroom. I have not found those people are talking to them. And this is again UNESCO, UNICEF, this data. And here you can see the blue refers to take home and paper based type of thing. And that light blue is support for television and then like that. And this graph says, this tower graph says that the teachers, only 50%, less than 50% people, teachers were prepared. And what about those teachers who were not prepared to teach? For example, Professor Raima was talking about different types of uses of, but are all the teachers are as prepared as Professor Raima? And if we do have the situation of these kind of things, how we teachers who used to teach classroom in the face-to-face classroom, and suddenly there was lockdown, and we were asked, "Oh, you are teacher, you go for the online classes." But have we been ever asked? Have we got enough guidance? Have we got enough training? Have we got enough resources? Did we have computers already? Did we have internet connections? Does the authority provide these kind of things? Who takes care about it? And one important thing that Kaash Foundation did was he brought all those practitioners. Since last Monday, I have been listening to the people, and these are all those who are at the front of education system. They have not brought any politicians who can just talk about it. And this is great. And in such a situation, who cares about? One of my students, who is also a teacher, and she writes in one of the survey, in one of interview that when I was writing about an article on the teacher situation in the classroom, and she says 2 hours ahead of, this is her daily routine. This is the anxiety that she lives with when she is the class. 2 hours ahead of class, a teacher sits before the laptop, collecting the mountain of assignments, where she painstakingly draws a line or a circle to highlight errors. Then there are the late assignments that delay the day's feedbacks. And soon, this is followed by an early parent teachers conference for a parent who is not able to meet the teacher later in the day. At the end of that meeting, she sits closer to her router and prays that doesn't freeze on the screen. Our personal hotspot is on standby in case the internet vanishes there, and she asks the teacher partner to help her remind if there is any kind of video switched on, and she has to talk. And this is the strategy. This is the stress that we teachers are passing through, and they make policies. They have big talks, but the problems are always with teachers. But I think most of the teachers in the world, they are not silent. They've been doing what they can do from their side. But everything is not the teacher that can do. The system is there. System has to work. Their respective universities, governments, and authorities should come forward to make education run much faster and better. And in this way, I just come to the conclusion. What I realize, and the discussion so far, it says that yes, education, technology, our technology in education or educational technology is a buzzword today or phrase. And in our region, several factors influence the use of technology in education. First thing is that accessibility and language of instruction. Another thing, what I feel is that, suppose, for example, India has more than 1,500 mother tongues. And in how many languages the instruction, that type of things that Professor Rima was talking about, that information, that website, that videos are available to the young children. Are they available? I had my education in Manipur, in the state of Manipur, and in Manipur there are 28 languages recognized by the government of Manipur. And Manipuri is the majority language spoken by almost a little bit more than half of the population. And what about those other 27 languages, the children coming from those communities? Do we have any kind of information to them who can use the website or the internet or the computer or that kind of things? Is that possible for them to teach? Have we thought about that? And what about the living condition, our economic condition? How many of our parents will sell their bottlers to buy the laptop or to buy the smartphone to our children? Another thing, if you are doing a class, online class, you should have at least a single room. If five people are living in one single room, and how many children can have the smartphone or the laptop, and is it possible to conduct the classes? Have you ever thought about that? And how are we prepared for the digital literacy? And what about the parents? What about the children? What about the teachers? Are we able to do that? And still, we have other issues, the issues of discrimination, the issues of social inclusion, the issues of digital divide. How can we try to address them? And in spite of all these things, technology is with us and we can't stop using technology, and we teachers find it. And this is what the last thing that I have to say. This is technology change what people do. Technologies change what people can do, and technologies also change what people want to do. I think in these three sentences, I just want to change the word people with teachers. And I will read them again. Technology change what teachers do. Technologies change what teachers can do. Technologies also change what teachers want to do. Thank you very much. I come to the end of this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Over to Dr. Satyavan.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really the last 50 minutes were very enthralling for us, and you have taken up right from the ancient abacus to handle calculators, from slide projector and classroom film strip to virtual reality. Your experience in looking into the next generation e-learning, educational technology, and this, which is kept on evolving in exciting new ways, inspiring the teachers and students alike. Sir, really, we appreciate your views on how technology is continually changing the way we work and play, to create the communities. So it's only a natural that the advancement in digital technology are also creating lots of opportunities in the world altogether. For teachers, technology is opening up new possibilities to enrich and stimulate the young mind. Today, I think it's lots of growing excitement around the potentials of assistive technology, virtual and augmented reality, and also the various high-tech collaboration tools that have been available. And sir, you have explored right through from a technology in education, from tape recorder to the Zoom and the Google Meet. Your exploration has really highlighted the various aspects that the technology is needed to look into, especially how the technology in education has grown, the application of the integration of these provisions into the national education policy in India India as well as the Nepal, and we made a very definite comparison between both of them. Though both the policies are in still the part of contentions and discussions and deliberations, I think the technology has changed the face of the entire teaching, learning, and evaluation techniques. And sir, definitely we try to bring the various statistics that shows that how many number of students are using the internet, or the number of population in Nepal and in India is using the internet as the facility. Also, you mentioned about the various stages in the technology, right, from 1900 to even 2000, and how the technology in education has went on change, and what kind of experience you had it right from the 1900 to 2000. You also mentioned about the various use of this educational technology and how you can integrate with the study of classical languages. You also mentioned the practical experience that what you had it in the 2010 earthquake and in the today's COVID-19 situations. In both of them, what we try to learn, whatever the kind of calamities or pandemic situations we may go through, but technology always comes in hand. So you also mentioned the various practical experiences in dealing with the various students, various student interactions, and also really I appreciate the point that you talked about the social inclusion. That we still understand that more than 60% of the students are unable to access to the technology that is available for learning as well as the teaching. And besides that, sir, really, it's a very actually, I can say I compliment you for putting up a very important point that today we are being forced to use the educational technology for teaching, learning, evaluation purpose. But are we really trained for it? Have we, been given a proper training to use? Or do we have any types of such instruments which have been provided by these institutions to use the technology? I think these are the questions we need to ponder over. And we understand, sir, that the kind of deliberations that you made and the kind of experience that you showed, really, I never felt that Nepal is another country and then India is another country, because we both of us are not only by heart, by mind, but also lots of collaborations. We are nowhere different whatsoever. The politicians may try to change on the map, but I know we will never change, and that always will remain. And I think, sir, your insightful talk has made a great difference to these academic deliberations. And I really thank these Avkash foundations to include such erudite scholars, those who have made not difference not only in teaching but also enlightening the young minds like the students. So thank you so much, sir. On behalf of the Avkash Foundation, I thank you, and on my behalf also I thank you. Before we conclude the session, we will take up the few questions because I know the time is running out. But still, it was a very, very, I say, thoroughly enjoyed kind of a talk with you. So thank you, sir. So let me have the first question which has been raised by one of the participants. They says that do you think that still the countries like India and the Nepal can work it out to raise the amount of budget allocations for education, especially including the technology? Like for example, in 5.16 to 6% in Nepal, or from 4.16 in India to 6% in India. So do you see that there kind of any such provisions can be thought over? That's the first question, sir. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think education should be given the first priority in government policies. There are several reasons for that. Because the greatest resources for a nation is the population, the human beings it has, or that country has. So first thing, in one sense, the investment in education doesn't give you the profit immediately. Like for example, you invested for a project of road project or something like that, but it's normally what happens. The investment you make, suppose in 2020, it's in education, the fruit of it will be start showing by 10 years or 15 years later. And in many parts of the world, what happens, politicians normally they ignore. Another important thing is that by education, when we talk of the mostly the school education, because that is the most important and that is the widely used type of thing. And there what happens, the children normally do not vote to the politicians. And this is normally very, very neglected part. But the time is changing, and both in India and Nepal, also there are positive thinking is there that more and more people are talking about giving the pressure to the government that the budget for the education should be increased, and we have seen in last few budget system, and I think that is a positive step. And let's hope, we teachers hope that in futures more budgets will be there, more technology integration will be there. Those children who are not able to have the access of technology because they do not, their family doesn't provide them the computer or internet accessibility. And I hope in future no father will sell his buffalo to buy a smartphone, or no child will commit suicide just because she or he doesn't have a device that we have to produce, we have to use for online learning system. And we will have access to all the children of the world so that they can have, and that is only possible if the governments increase the investment or the budget in their GDP. I think more than 6-7% gradually, as per the need, we have to move further. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving a beautiful answer. And we do understand the social and the economic constraints that each nations are having. So there are so many other questions, but I think the time is not permitting us to ask any further more questions. So once again, sir, thank you so much for you for such a nice kind of a talk. And
Sir, your voice is not that audible.
Yeah, am I audible, sir, right now?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay. So, sir, thank you so much for giving such a beautiful answer for the question raised. Though there are so many other questions are still in the line, but now I think the time is not permitting us to go for the next questions. But at the same time, sir, we also understand the kind of the concerns that you have raised. I think these are the concerns that which we have to keep in mind and work it all together, maybe at a world level, not at a national level. So I think these kinds of attempts, these kinds of faculty development programs will certainly not only stimulate, but they will energize the teachers to come together and to raise this concern and to make the education as socially inclusive, and also it will make it universal, and the technology will penetrate down to each and every needed learner. So thank you so much for enlightening us. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the entire Kaash team, the entire chapter, because you have done a very marvelous and a very beautiful job. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. Now over to the organizer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Tikaram Poddar, for an astute session on technology in education from tape recorder to Zoom and Google Meet, and also Dr. Satyavan for moderating the session remarkably. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Geeta Ajit, Joint Director of Kaash Foundation, Coordinator of CAPD and Editor-in-Chief of Kaash Connect, a quarterly newsletter, Assistant Professor, VES Institute of Technology, Mumbai, to kindly share her concluding remarks for the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you very much. To all our viewers, once again, thank you for joining us on this fourth day of FTP in Emerging Trends and Approaches in English Language and Literature. Once again, we had a very entertaining and enlightening and eruditing session, I would say. 3 wonderful speakers who have given us a great insight into a lot of perspectives that we need, the needs of today. So to begin with, we had Dr. Baliram Gaikwad, who spoke on global trends in modern English literature. He spoke about modernism as a movement and its impact, and also the thematic features and trends that fills in every field of literature. And it was moderated by Dr. Santosh Rathod. Well, thank you, Dr. Baliram Gaikwad. Thank you, Dr. Santosh Rathod. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. Then next, we had Rima Al-Jaraf all the way from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, with her topic, Strategies for Effective Distant Learning in EFF College Course during COVID-19. She spoke on quite a lot of things, which is really the needs of today. The need for effective distant education in teaching and learning, how to help students who have no computers and internet access. And also she gave insights into webinar softwares, how to select, practice, and communicate with students. She gave an insight into both what the students need to do and what the teachers need to do, and also various sources where they can access the websites and the various apps which can be used in today's teaching learning process. And the session was moderated by Dr. Prashant VG. Thank you, Dr. Rima. Thank you, Dr. Prashant, for being with us for this really insightful session. The third session was with Dr. Tikaram Podal with his topic, Technology in Education from Tape Recorder to Zoom to Google Meet. And again, he spoke about the importance of technology and also spoke about the national education policy of both countries, the latest national education policy of both countries, India and Nepal. And he analyzed it and put forth to it what exactly were the needs today. Of course, he used his experiences. He spoke about his experiences with education, technology, and how through the various years as a teacher, how he has developed an understanding and insight for the requirements of today. And, very important was how the Kathmandu University, like all of us were struggling when COVID-19 came into force and we suddenly had to do a complete turnover in the teaching and learning methodologies. But it was very interesting to know with Dr. Tikaram Podal how Kathmandu University, which because of the earlier disaster that they had, they were so prepared for it that they did not even waste a single day's teaching learning process. And probably, as we say, it is natural disasters or forces of nature and forces of situation that enables us or requires us and forces us to be updated today. And we also touched on the problems of digital divide and social inclusion, which is something we should all ponder upon. Very rarely does anyone speak about it. And it was moderated by Dr. Satyavan Hanigave. And I thank both of you so much for the session. Once again, thank you, viewers, for being with us. Please, and I hope you all had another enlightening and learning evening today. Thank you, and over to Chelsea.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, on behalf of Kaash Foundation and LTI, I would also like to express a heartfelt gratitude and appreciation to all our resource persons today, Dr. Baliram Gaikwad, Professor Rima, and Dr. Tikaram Patel, as well as the moderators, Dr. Santosh Rathod, Dr. Prashant VG, and Dr. Satyavan, for gracefully accepting our invitation and being a part of the fourth day of the third International FPD. We maneuver ourselves to the fifth day of the third International Faculty Development Program tomorrow, where we will witness the graceful presence of three illustrious scholars, which include Jason Anderson, who will be presenting on text interpretation, India's hidden pedagogy, Dr. Margaret L., who will be deliberating on identity and orality in meso-narratives, and Dr. K. Venkat Reddy, who will be discussing on innovation in ELT. I would also request you all to please fill the feedback form, the link for which is given in the description. With this, we come to the end of the session and we will again see you live tomorrow at 3 p.m. on Kaash Foundation YouTube channel. Kindly subscribe to our channel for notifications on the faculty development program. This is Chelsea Prakash from Kaash Foundation signing off. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
अभी पहले तो बहुत कम था, अभी